right now. We've got chairs set up for you, and I want to invite a new friend of mine, Officer Scott Rodrigue. Would y'all give it up for Officer Scott Rodrigue? So as I mentioned to you, we're kicking off our sex and relationship series, and what we've done is we've invited Officer Scott to come and talk specifically tonight. He's going to share with you a little bit about his work and what he does. He is a state trooper who also works with the FBI and specifically dealing with human trafficking and rescuing people and children and women, which you'll hear more about, from human trafficking, which is just an amazing work that he does. And so he's going to kind of talk to you a little bit about technology, pornography, trafficking, and what that looks like and how that falls into what we're talking about tonight. So thank you, Officer Scott, for your time, and it's all you, my man.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. As Michael said, my name's Scott Rodrigue. I work for the state police, and I'm assigned to the FBI on a multi-jurisdictional human trafficking and child exploitation task force. So how many people here knows what human trafficking is? How many people here know what child exploitation is? Okay. So we're going to get into a little bit and kind of cover the topics and just kind of go over it to make sure everybody knows what it is, but also to make sure you all understand in picture exchanges and texting boyfriend and girlfriends exactly what it means and exactly the trouble you could get into by doing that. So to get into a little bit of human trafficking and just put it bluntly, I understand that this is it a month-long sex session? Okay, so we'll kind of use the word sex a little bit, and I mean, I'm not going to get into exactly what it is because I'm sure at this age everybody here knows what it is. But so human trafficking is the sale of human beings into the sex trade. So what happens is young men and young women are brought into the sex trade, and they're sold and forced to have sex. And many times what happens is they're kept in hotel rooms, they're kept in houses, sheds. We had one rescued not long ago. She had been locked in a shed for, a couple months, and she would be taken out in the morning, put on the street, or sent to hotel rooms and forced to have sex with men over and over and over again every day, and that was her entire job, just to have sex with men over and over. Now, how many people here have social media? How many people here, if we went through your social media, friend by friend, we would come to at least one person that you didn't know? Okay. More than likely, some of you may be friends with me on social media because I have undercover social media accounts along with everybody else that I work with. Some of them mine says I'm a 14-year-old girl, and every year the date of birth changes. Every now and then the name changes, but the pictures really never change because most people aren't smart enough to catch it, and I just keep using the same people. But I have close to 2,000 friends on my social media accounts. And I have friends in New Orleans, I have friends in Mississippi, Baton Rouge, Alabama, Texas, and they don't know. And the reason we're getting into that is most of the human trafficking cases that we investigate start from social media. So what happens is I would friend everyone in this room, and all of you know each other, I think it's safe to say. So I would friend everybody in this room. Some of you will blow me off and not accept the friend request, but some of you will. So what happens is you accept the friend request, and then when I friend you as the friend, you look and say, who the heck is this guy? But you see him in my friend profile, so you say, well, I must know him or he must know me, and you accept my friend request. Well, shortly after, we may start communicating, and this is how most of our cases begin. And we have had cases where the girl ends up in the sex trade in New Orleans, and we have also had cases not long ago where the girl ends up in the sex trade in Africa, all because a person friended someone they didn't know on social media and began communicating with them. So what happens is there's a grooming process, and you'll hear the word grooming a lot, and what the grooming process is, it starts as very, very minor communication. It's first a friend request. That friend request is accepted. Then it might be, hey, how you doing today? The next day, it's, hey, how was your day? And over time, just like anything else, that person starts to build a rapport with you, starts communicating with you, and building that trust to where one day they message you and say, hey, I'm around your house or I'm close by your school, because more than likely everybody posts pictures in their school uniform or their softball or volleyball uniform. So just based on pictures, you can kind of figure out a little bit about that person. So over time, what happens is the person begins that grooming process. He or she gets to know you, and next thing you know, it might be a cute guy, it might be a cute girl. Hey, let's meet up for a coffee, or let me buy you a soda, or whatever. And some people do this. And I see people laughing like they're not smart enough to do this, but it happens every day. And not all the human trafficking cases take place. And when you think of a prostitute, most people think of a drug addict, a homeless person, a street person. We have handled cases in schools around here, Hannon on the North Shore, SSA on the North Shore, Mandeville High, Chappelle, Mount Carmel. All people there that this process started with, and these girls got mixed up in the sex trade. Now, we had a case not long ago where the girl ended up in New Orleans from South Carolina by the trafficker who came in from London to meet her. We had another one where the little girl ended up in Africa. We had a case today with an 8-year-old that's in Africa right now. And a lot of this stuff stems from social media and talking to people you don't know online. So the safest thing to do is keep your social media profiles private. Do not accept friend requests from someone you don't know, because just because he's friends with them doesn't mean he actually knows them. You know, you've seen the people raise their hand. So the other side of that is child exploitation. There are several parts to it. The main part of it is child pornography. So when people think of child pornography, they think of little babies with no clothes on, the pictures being shared by grown men. Child pornography here, what's the average age of people here? 15, 16? So legally, you all are children. So if you're dating her and he asks for a picture of you and you send a nude picture, now you've sent child pornography to him and he's in possession of child pornography. And I will tell you this, ladies, I look at people's phones every day, and I go through people's lives every day. And people will look things up and talk about things on their phones that they will not say in person. And I will make you this promise. If you send a nude picture to a guy, they are going to show everyone. And most of the time, girls don't show it as much, but they will do the same thing. So the safest thing with that is, and girls, I have several children, and I tell my kids, I'm pretty honest with them. When you get to a certain age, and you're at that age, it's not if guys are going to ask you for pictures, it's when guys are going to ask you for pictures. And some of you may have been asked already, but that time will come. And I tell my daughters that when you get to the age where you're old enough to begin to have sex, or it's a topic and you start dating, guys will attempt to try to have sex with you or try sexual acts with you, and it never stops. It doesn't stop when you get married. It doesn't stop when you get a boyfriend. It doesn't stop when you get old. No matter what, it's going to continue. And it's not if it happens. It's not when it happens. It's not if it happens. It's when it happens, because it will happen. And the one thing I want to warn you, that if you send a picture to a guy that you think is cute, no matter what he tells you and what he promises you, every one of his friends will see that picture. And we have it every single day. We go through people's phones where the boy breaks up with the girl, and then the boy sends it all over the school, or he shows it all over the football locker room or the baseball locker room. So keep that in mind next time you go on a date or you meet a guy and you think he's cute and he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. If you send that picture, everyone will see it at some point. So the safest thing to do is do not put anything in your phone or in a text message that you don't want the pastor here or your parents or the principal of your school to see, or if the teacher gets up in front of the school and reads that text message, you wouldn't be embarrassed with it. So the other part of the trafficking is meeting people you don't know. So we've talked about the social media aspect of it, and that's how a lot of our cases start, is from social media: Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. And the other part, we've had several cases on Snapchat where you can turn your locations on. So you can open up your phones and you can see where every one of your friends are, like to the house. And we have found several people because they had that app on. And it's been a good thing in some cases. We had a case not long ago where the little girl had a separate phone. And she left to go meet a guy, and the guy kidnapped her and kind of forced her into the sex trade. So she had been gone for some time, or a couple days, and she was at another place being forced to do some pretty horrible things. And we were diligently working to try to locate the girl. Thankfully, her friend came forward. While we were at the house, her friend comes over there and says, "Look, I want to speak to one of y'all." She has a separate phone. She had a phone that was under her bed that she would use to communicate. And due to the locations and the apps on the phone, we were able to find the guy that was trafficking her, and inevitably find her. But the other thing is, what I want to warn you about that is, when you are communicating with people online, if your locations are on, these people you're communicating with on the other end, they can see where you are. So, you'll have cases where someone will message you, you accept the friend request because you may have a few girls or a few guys sleeping at the house and you think it's funny, so you're gonna, talk back and forth or Snapchat back and forth with the person just to play jokes and, carry on. But once that you accept that person just to communicate them, they can see where you are. And we had a case not long ago where it was a group of girls at a private school on the North Shore, was Snapchatting back and forth with the guy, and the guy showed up at the house. So with that said, my warning to you all is to, be very cautious with social media, because there's predators out there every day they stay in the room. All they do is message girls online constantly. And they don't need many of them. They just need one of them to bite and communicate with. And, they can get that person and move them into their sex trade. So do we have any questions? I don't know how much I covered here. You got any questions?
So I know you mentioned about technology, social media specifically. Can you talk about how just technology in general, smartphones and social media, the development of that, how that has changed or maybe expedited this industry? I mean, it is an industry, right? So how has it kind of changed or morphed, and what was maybe like before, and how easy is it, I guess, nowadays for that to take
a lot
place?
of the sex trade now has moved online. Like, you can still drive down certain streets, like Airline Highway or Chef Highway, and you'll still see prostitutes out walking the street. But a lot of times what that is it's, and I hate to put it like this, but it's prostitutes that are being punished. They did something they weren't supposed to do. They didn't make enough money. They stole the pimp's money, and the pimp is, I'm sure everybody here knows what a pimp is. It's the person who is, and I'll just use the word, hoeing the girls out. But a lot of time the girls are walking the street because they're being punished. Most of the sex trade now has moved online, so there's websites that you can go to, and it's all a database. So what happens is the pimp will take pictures of the female, they'll post it online, and then they'll have numbers through WhatsApp and Google texts and things like that, to where you can contact the girl. You go to a hotel, you meet them, and for an exchange of money, the sexual acts take place. Then you leave, the pimp comes in and gets the money. So we do have the capability to track a lot of that things, and that's how, thankfully, we are able to locate a lot of the girls that go missing. But this happens every day. I mean, I work in a unit of about 10 guys just in New Orleans, or guys and girls just in New Orleans, and we could do it around the clock, if not, because there's that many people missing in the city at any given time in the sex trade. And like I've explained, it's not like before I started doing this, I pictured prostitutes and, sex slaves as drug addicts and, street people and stuff like that. One of the first cases I handled was just a normal middle-class girl from a private Catholic school in the area. And I was shocked. I really was. I was totally, totally shocked. So during the investigation, I built, due to the way the case went, working in an undercover capacity, we began building social media platforms and undercover applications and stuff like that. And if I turn on my undercover phone or log into my undercover account, instantly, people will start messaging me, wanting pictures and wanting to meet up. And we do make cases like that. When we have the time to do it, we will make cases like that. But it's so prevalent, and I'm sure some of you could stand up and tell some stories about how you get messages from creeps or random strange people and stuff like that. And the thing is, it's like I tell my kids, it's not wrong to get the messages, it's wrong to reach out and communicate with them, because that's where the problem comes in. All right, anybody?
What are the red flags that you should be looking for when somebody does request you on social media?
The safest thing is, if you don't know them, do not accept it. If you don't know them, don't accept it. And like I said, a lot of times what happens is it's a fishing expedition. People will look at the profile, and they might friend 200 people. Well, out of those 200 people, you may know a few of them, so all you need is one or two of them to accept it. Well, then the other people will look and say, oh, she's a friend of his already, maybe I know him. And she doesn't know him, she just inadvertently accepted the friend request because it's cool to have a lot of friends, and it's cool to say my number's 2,000 or whatever the case is. So they accept the friends, and then the communication starts. And these people aren't stupid. I mean, they know exactly what they're doing. Most of the time, it's not the cute guy that's in the picture. Most of the time, it's some guy that lives in his mom's basement, or some criminal that looks nothing like the picture. But young people get wrapped up on how cute this guy or girl is, so they accept the friend request, and then they feel great that this cute guy wants to communicate with them, so they begin communicating with them, and then they think they're in a relationship, and that's where the problem comes in. And the other thing with guys is what happens is, and this happens a lot, and we get these calls every single day. And, I was a teenage boy, so I know how it goes. You're 15 years old, and you get a message from a 19, 20, 21-year-old smoking hot chick, and she sends you pictures, nude pictures, but it's not her. It's just pictures she pulls off the internet, and then she wants nude pictures of you. And soon as you send those pictures, then the threats start coming in. You send me this much money on a gift card, send me the gift card number, or I'm going to send these pictures to your parents, or I'm going to send these pictures to school, or I'm going to send pictures to your youth group. And, a lot of times what happens is the kids get in over their head, I don't have the money, and they'll say, well, come meet me, and we'll figure it out. And that's where the problem comes in, because now you don't know how to get yourself out of it. You're 15 years old, so you got to find ways to get there to try to keep your parents from finding out. And then on the other end of it, it's, not the girl who you think it was just the guy posing as a girl to get those pictures to start blackmailing you. And it happens every single day. So my warning to all of you is there's risk out there, and it will happen. If it hasn't happened yet, it will come. But they're going to ask for pictures. They're going to ask to communicate. And as soon as you do something you're not supposed to do, they're going to hold it over your head and make the threats. And a lot of times, all you need to do is call the local police. Go tell your parents. A lot of people look at their parents like, I don't want my parents to find this out. I don't want my parents to know this. They're going to be so mad. Your parents were teenagers too. Your parents probably did 99% of the things you think you get away with, they probably did. So the thing is, tell them. Call the local police. Come to your pastor. Tell them, hey, I think I got in a little over my head, and this is what's going on, and I need help. Because, a lot of these cases like that, where the kids send pictures and the threats are held over their head, you do need help to get out of it. That's not something you can handle on your own. but it happens every day. And, people get in way deeper over their head trying to fix the problem on their own when the mistake that they did wasn't really that big. And I tell my kids all the time, it's your job to make mistakes. It's my job to ensure those mistakes that you make aren't life-altering mistakes. So I'm good with you making the mistakes. In fact, I encourage the mistakes. But I'm brutally honest with my kids and telling them, if you go out and do A, B, and C, and I don't find out, I'm fine. But if you get to a point to where you're over your head, don't try to fix it. Come to me, and we'll fix it. And, a lot of times when that happens, there'll be no questions asked. We'll sit down and talk about it at some point, but we'll fix the problem, get past it, and then we'll deal with the consequences of it later. Anything else? Nobody has questions? I did this at Celebration Metairie campus, and they had a lot of questions, the kids. Don't be embarrassed. Okay.
Can you talk about just like some of the legal consequences of sending nudes, like having them on your phone even, as in possession of a minor, those things?
All right. From a legal standpoint, there's no difference in if you have a picture of a 2-year-old little girl or your girlfriend who's 16. It's still classified as child pornography. When you take that picture and you send that picture, that's production of child pornography. So you're actually making child pornography because you're under the age of 17. So whether you're 2 or 16 and you're taking those pictures, it's production. So there is legal ramifications. Now, not every case is charged because it's not. But the repercussions can be, jail time, fines, and the most harmful is having to register as a sex offender. So what happens with that, if you're convicted of a sex crime, you have to register as a sex offender. And I'm sure everybody here has seen, you get a little flyer in the paper every now and then, and it's a guy or girl's picture, and it says, I'm a sex offender and I live down the street. You have to do that whenever you move somewhere, and every year you have to send these out to let everyone in the neighborhood know that you're a pedophile or a sex offender and, the history so that they can keep their kids away from you. It is on your license as well. Yeah. Any questions? All right. Well, I'll leave you all with this.
I have a question.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
And this is more like for the girls. Like, I'm not trying to be sexist, girls, but okay, when young girls post pictures on social media and in their bikinis or half dressed, like, how is that open? I know that in the sex trafficking industry, or even just men out there are using those pictures, exploiting those pictures. Like, I guess my question is, what is your advice for that? Like, how girls can protect themselves and maybe not posting those type of pictures?
Yeah, and I understand the sexist part of it because I've handled many human trafficking cases. 99.9% of the human trafficking cases I've handled are female victims. There have been cases that have come through our office that are young males, but most of the time, it's the 99.9% of the time, it's female victims. Because that's what, men are creepy, and that's where the money comes in. It's predominantly men paying for sex. And they are paying for sex, to have sex with young boys, but a lot of them are paying for sex for the girls. So, but to put it like that, when you do post the pictures, my best advice to you is any picture that you're posting, just imagine everyone is seeing that picture. How are you going to feel 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when you have kids and that picture's still out there floating around? Because once the picture hits the internet, it never goes away. So how are you going to feel before you take that picture and post it to the internet? Ask yourself, how am I going to feel in 10 or 15 years when my kids see this picture? Now, everybody stands on the beach in a bathing suit. That's not the problem. It's the provocative poses and, things like that you may be a little skeptical. Another thing you all want to think about is now social media is everywhere. Social media is not going anywhere. One of the first things we do when we start an investigation against a person is we go in and look them up on social media. One of the first things colleges do when you apply to colleges, they go in and look at you on social media. One of the first things jobs do when you apply for a job is they go in and look at your social media. And telling them I don't have a social media isn't really a thing because everybody has social media nowadays. So, not saying that everybody does have it, but most of the time they're going to want the password or they're not going to give you the job. And if you go apply for a high-end job after college and they log into your social media and you have all these provocative pictures where you're drinking and out partying and doing all these questionable things, it could hurt you if the next person doesn't have it. So just be mindful before you make a decision to post a picture or say something online or do anything like that. Just ask yourself, is this something I want everybody to see for years to come? Is this something I want everybody to read for years to come? And if you ask yourself and just stop and slow down for a second, it may stop you from posting that picture. And guys, the same thing. When that smoking hot chick that looks like she's 20 or 25 years old messages you saying they want pictures of you, ask yourself, is this real? I mean, why is she messaging me? Is this really legit? You know what I mean? Because she's going to start sending you pictures, and then she's going to ask you for pictures, and it's like, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. But if you do get yourself in over your head, don't try to fix it on yourself. Go to someone else and get advice on how to do it.
Officer Scott, can you speak to maybe just for a couple minutes about more into this grooming process of what that looks like, whether it's in person, maybe it's an older guy who's kind of targeting a younger girl, or whether it's, vice versa, just what that looks like and how it can start and seem like, man, this is a real relationship, this is great, and then that can quickly morph into being sold into trafficking.
And that's exactly what a lot of it starts as, where it starts where, as a young adult or a teenager, you believe that this person is filling that void of a relationship. Oh, I want a relationship. I want to hang out with this guy. I want to hang out with this girl. And that grooming process is that guy, and we'll use ladies for example in this one, that guy is coming to you and he's buying you flowers. He's taking you to PJ's at get Starbucks. He's taking you to PJ's or taking you to Starbucks. We don't get Starbucks at PJ's. But he's taking you to Starbucks, or he's taking you to PJ's, or he's saying all the right things online, and he's doing all the right things. And the profile or the character of that person is fake. It's all online. I mean, I can sit here and, text with somebody and say all these amazing things because I got time to sit down and think about it, and they don't see what I'm thinking on the other side of the phone. So they're saying all the right things, they're doing all the right things, and then comes the time where it's like, you all are like, oh, this guy is great, this guy's amazing, I meet the greatest guy. Now he wants to come pick me up and take me to PJ's. And he does. And then the next day he picks you up and takes you to Chick-fil-A. Then the next day he picks you up and takes you to Cane's. And then what happens is, after a couple weeks, he comes and picks you up and says, okay, I've done all this for you, but I need you to do me one favor. And that's where the problem comes in. Because once you get in, you can't get out. And that's where we have to come in and locate, and the rescue comes in. Because what happens is, that favor is, I want you to sleep with this guy, and he's going to give us some money because I don't have any more money now, because I spent it all on you. So if you want to continue to get these nice things, I just need you to sleep with this guy, or I need you to do this with this guy. And then the thing is, you do it, and they take a picture, or they take a video, or they say, if you don't do it again, I'm going to go tell your parents, or I'm going to go tell your teacher, or I'm going to tell everybody at the school. And then next thing you know, you're kind of in too deep, and you don't know how to get out. And most people are embarrassed and they don't want to come say anything, so they keep doing it, think they can handle the problem on their own, which they can't. And all of this started from just communicating with this guy that you thought was really cute online. And it's like, oh, He's everything I've ever wanted. He's my dream guy. And I'm not making this up. This is the things that we hear on the daily basis from victims. You know, I've sat down and talked to them, and I'm friends with some of them now. I still have some of them call me on my birthday to tell me happy birthday because we got them out of the sex trade. They were for months or sometimes years, you know, locked up in hotels, and their job was just to have sex with people every day, all day long. And, you know, they couldn't stop. And they don't really know how to get out of it. And a lot of that starts from just that online relationship where you think you meet Mr. Perfect, and at the end of the day, he's not, you know.
I got more questions, y'all. Y'all have no questions? Anybody? You don't have to use the mic. Does anybody have a question? You want to ask anything? Okay, what do I do, Officer Scott, if I'm in a group message with a bunch of my friends and one of them decides to send a photo, and it's, at this point, child pornography, a minor, somebody nude photo? What do I do? How do I handle that? What's my next step? How do I prevent myself? Because now I'm in possession of this. I'm like, I didn't ask for being in this. Like,
Yeah.
what do I do?
A lot of times nobody wants to be, you know, the rat or a snitch. So just tell your friend, hey, dude, or ladies, erase the message. Just send them, hey, look, don't send it over this chat. Y'all erase it, erase the thread. And if it becomes a problem, then you go tell somebody. Or you pull them on the side and tell them first, and then go tell an adult and say, look, this is what's going on. This guy's sending inappropriate stuff. And it's not just images, you know, to hit on that topic. It's just not images. People can use words, phrases, derogatory topics, you know, bullying, talking about other people. You know, that's not something that you want someone to see. You know, you get another parent go through somebody's phone and they see a group message where you all are talking about another kid. And, you know, the problem comes in because now you get judged for something someone else sent because you didn't say anything about it. You know, so, you know, on that topic, it's, nobody wants to be labeled a snitch. Nobody wants to be labeled a rat. But like I told you the story of last time, not long ago when we had a female, the only reason we found her is because she had another phone under her bed, and her friend came forward and told us that. If it wouldn't have been for that little girl's friend coming forward and telling us, hey, there's a phone, she's got another phone under her bed, we may not have found her. At least we may have found her much later when she was dead, or because the thing is, at this point, they knew we were looking for him. So the easiest thing for them to do is, you know, just put it bluntly, is kill him and go about their business and get out of town. You know, so the thing is, we may have found that little girl once it was too late. So her friend knew at that point they're in over their head and it's time to come forward. So there's nothing wrong. You know, I know everybody sits around and it's snitches get stitches and nobody wants to be a rat and all this stuff. But there's a time and a place to come forward and tell, my friend's in over their head and they need help. Go to your parents. Go to a pastor. You know, go to a school counselor, a principal, a parent friend, someone that you can trust. And the thing is, most of the time, kids get themselves in situations that they can't get out on their own, and they need the help to do it. So there is a time to where when something's going on, don't be scared to come forward, you know, and ask for help or tell them that your friend's in help, because that's when a friend is a real friend. You know, not letting them stay on a road of self-destruction. Any type of nude photographs of a child under 17. No, because it's not nude. So a bikini's not child pornography, but when you start showing, you know, private parts up top and private parts below, that's considered child pornography. And I'm saying private parts up top and below, and everybody here knows what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
But that question would lead to something else. I would think if that person, I'm not saying it's you, I'm just saying that question though. If somebody's sending you bikini stuff, you know, after a while, as you would say, they would ask for more. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. And it's just like anything else. You know, it's going to escalate. You just have to if your girlfriend's sending you pictures of her in her bikini, the next question you're going to ask is, hey, take it off and send it to me. And that's where the problems come in. That's not something you want to get into. And ladies, when you send that picture without the stuff, he's going to show somebody. He can sit here and say he's not, but when he gets mad, he's going to show somebody.
At what moment could, or are there cases where parents press charges against somebody else?
Yeah, there are. There are cases. And everything is a case-by-case basis, but we have had cases where it does press charges, especially in cases where, and it happens a lot, where the females send pictures to the guys and the guys go show the pictures. Most of the time there's charges come in for that, And I'm telling you, I can't stress it enough, and I'm going to repeat it. If you send them the pictures, they are going to show them. I see it every day. I mean,
Can you talk about how even within minors, they're lying about their age? Like, let's say a 17-year-old boy thinks a girl is 17, but she's really 12.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter how old. If she tells you she's, if you're an adult, if you're 17, and you meet and have sex with a 15-year-old girl, and when you get caught, the girl says, she said she was 17, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if she's got a fake ID and shows it to you,
I have a question. Can you speak into young girls under the age of 17 at what it looks like for them to be provocative, what's appropriate? Do you do any?
You want me to pose up here?
No, if you want to.
I don't, I think
just a
everybody.
hard subject to touch on, talking about, modesty in today's culture.
I think everybody has a different threshold of what that is, so I'm not going to pose and start showing the different poses, but I think everybody has a different threshold. That's why I use the statement of, if you post a picture and it's not something you would want other people to see, or you would want to sit down with your parents and look at, then more than likely you shouldn't be posting it. But everyone has kind of a different threshold with what they're comfortable with, And I know that maybe that's not your best.
No, I probably didn't ask that right, or maybe I'm just not.
Yeah, that's kind of why I leave the blanket statement of, what they're comfortable looking at with other adults or school counselors or something like that. Anybody? Anybody? All right, y'all good?
I feel like there's some questions that are out there still. No, I'm kidding. If seriously though, okay, this is what I want to say. We've got a little Pandora's box we made over here with some note cards. If you guys have any questions in regards throughout this entire series of things, write them down, fill it in there. Obviously now I'm in touch with Officer Scott as well, and if there's a question specifically for him, maybe you didn't feel comfortable asking it out loud, that's a way for you to ask that question and get an answer at another time. And at the end of week 3, we are actually going to open Pandora's box and answer all the questions in there. And so anytime throughout this series, tonight, next week, the last week, write down some questions and we'll kind of talk through some more of those things. But yeah, is there anything else specifically in regards to the topic? Anybody? Questions, last questions, anything before we kind of wrap it up? All right, well, y'all give it up for Officer Scott for me, please.
Thank you.
And if you don't mind, can we just pray over you, pray over your work, pray over what you do, obviously the victims you work with each and every day, the families as well. So let's just pray over Officer Scott and his task force and what they do. If you don't mind just extending your hand forward, just a sign of agreement as we pray together over him and his unit. God, I just thank you so much for tonight. I thank you for using Officer Scott just to drop some knowledge on us on just a really really tough subject, something that hopefully none of us have to deal with in our lives. But unfortunately, in the world we live, we probably will either deal with it directly or indirectly with people that we know and love. And I want to lift up Officer Scott to you specifically. I pray for wisdom over him. I pray as technology continues to advance and things like AI and all those new developments even coming out even recently, Father, I know that it's only going to make his job harder. So I pray for wisdom in that area. I pray for favor in that area. I pray for the victims that he helps and rescues. I pray that you would just wrap your loving arms around them, bring redemption to them and healing to them and restoration to them where they may have areas of healing that they need, Father. And I pray for our broken world that you would just be a light, God. I pray for Officer Scott and his entire task force that he works alongside, God, that you would just protect them, that you would give them the divine knowledge to know and to seek out answers when they're looking to seek those answers out and looking specifically to find victims and rescue them, God. So give them favor in their work and all that they do and protect them and protect their families, God. We love you and thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you so much, Officer. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. See, look, it came in handy, Bianca. I got my paper here now. I'm ready to go. So before we dismiss, we're going to be done in just a second. I do want to kind of wrap up with some announcements because I didn't do announcements earlier. But let me just give you these real quick. We'll just wrap these announcements up and we'll be done. We'll have some time in the gym and everything. First and foremost, on your chairs there, it did have a connection card. I want to invite you to just write down, fill that out for us. If you want some more information about us and the ministry, how to get more involved, maybe you got some questions or anything like that, that's your opportunity to fill that out for us. And if you are new and came in late, we do have just kind of a first-time guest card we'd like for you to fill out for us. That we'll have that in the gym that you can fill that out before you leave. Secondly, this Saturday, this is a big one. Look, I've been talking about it for a few weeks. And I'm going to be straight up honest. I'm a little disappointed at the lack of response here of you guys wanting to participate in D-Now. D-Now this weekend is really going to be a great opportunity. I know for some of you, you're thinking, man, I don't know. I've never done this before. But I want you to think of like, not necessarily camp in the sense of like games and all this kind of activities and things, but camp in the sense of what our services are like at camp and how you really encounter God at camp and how God can speak to you when you go off to camp. And just picture that as a one-day event where we've got a guest speaker who's coming to speak from churches all over the city to gather together at First Baptist New Orleans. And so I want you to kind of have an opportunity to fill out and go to this, okay? It's going to be all day. We're going to meet here in the morning and be at First Baptist New Orleans at 9 a.m., and I know that that's early in the morning on a Saturday, but look, it's one Saturday out of your life, okay? We're going to gather together. We'll transport together, get over there, First Baptist New Orleans at 9 o'clock, and then we'll spend the day basically there, and we'll have some free time. We'll go to Crescent City. We're going to play some games and have some free time there at Crescent City and then go back for dinner. They're going to feed us lunch and dinner. You're going to get a free T-shirt, and we'll have two of those big sessions where Chip Luter, who is Dr. Fred Luter's son, he's going to be preaching and bringing the word for those services. So I want you to take part in that and join in that. You also will, hopefully still, I know it's kind of late, but I still can probably get you a wristband for City Park Night, which our church-wide City Park Night is Friday night. So that'll be included in the cost of D-Now. D-Now is $30. City Park Night alone is $15, but if you sign up for D-Now, I'll get you a free wristband, which includes going to City Park Night then. Then, in 3 weeks from today, is our Wednesday night Easter service. And every year, thank you, Officer Scott, have a blessed night. Every year, that's one of our biggest services of the year. And every year, it looks a little differently. Oftentimes, we have students that have filmed a skit and made a video. We've had students that have preached on Easter week. We've had students that help lead worship, students that have done things like video announcements. I want to give you, especially those of you who find your outlet by being creative, I want to encourage you to not just be a consumer here at this ministry, but to be a contributor, somebody who contributes in a lot of ways. So if you want to take part in our Easter service, our planning or executing, coordinating, any of that, then fill that out, write that on your connection card, and we will follow up with you with that. Finally, I know some of you have already reached out to me about service hours for different things. If you need service hours for school, let us know. We have different opportunities for you to do that. Now, as we wrap up, The gym is going to be open from time to chill and hang out. Let me just pray over us to wrap up service, and we will officially be dismissed tonight. God, you're great. I thank you for this night. I thank you for these students. And Father, I pray, that you would just continue to speak to us and encourage us throughout this series and help us to learn something new each week. And next week, as we talk about healthy boundaries and purity in our relationships and what that looks like, I pray that you would just prepare us for that this week and help us, Father, to be a good friend, to encourage each other to be godly, and to encourage each other to stay away from the things of this world that can lead us down paths that we did not intend to go. So as we leave this place, as we go have fun in the gym, just help us have a great time of fellowship and hanging out. And we thank you for this series. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.